Hey everyone, it is Grant Winsauer and
Jack Rody.
back here on the Bear Clawcast, and today we are joined by the only man who probably knows more about football than me and diehard Packer fan, my old high school football teammate, Peyton Blake. Why don't you introduce yourself, Peyton, and just yeah, go into that.
Yeah. Hey everyone, my name's Peyton Blake. Like Grant said, I was a teammate of his at high school. We were both managers together, and I currently coach over at Neenah High School up in Wisconsin. And I am pursuing a physical education degree at college as well at the same time, looking to student teach and be a gym or a weights teacher at the high school level.
That's awesome. So today we will be discussing how we all got involved in the sports scene. How Jordan Love has looked a little shaky this season compared to seasons past. How the Bears are in the constant rinse and repeat cycle of getting the quarterback and then firing the coach that drafted him, and then making them start over with everything in year two. How the Bears versus Packers rivalry has produced some less than exciting matchups the last couple of years, and then some predictions for the Bears Packers game. But before we get into that, we just want to remind you all to like, comment, and subscribe to the Bear Clockcast on YouTube and Apple Podcast. So let's start with how we all got into the sports scene. For me, it actually started in eighth grade. I knew I needed a activity to do after school, and I didn't want it to be spending 2 hours after school just getting help with homework. Luckily, I had an assistant who uh, said to me, "You love sports, right? Why don't you get involved in that?" And luckily, me and Peyton's freshman football coach was the leader of the travel program uh, for our high school, and he was coming to give presentation to the middle school. And I noticed his T-shirt said "football coach" on it, so I went up to him and told him I couldn't play for him, but I'd like to manage for him, and he gave me his email, and the rest is history. So, Peyton, why don't you go into how your experience was as a manager for Huntley High School and how that helped you get a job as a coach at 21 or 22 years old, which honestly has to be a record because I've never heard of a coach that young before.
Yeah, so, well, interestingly enough, I actually got hired at 20 years old. And then my first season, when we were actually in it, I was 21. But yeah, so I really got into football around sixth grade. That's when I actually started like hardcore watching it. And then I didn't really become a part of a team until, like you said, freshman year of high school. I wanted to try playing, but I am a very small man. And so that didn't really go as planned, but my smarts for the game, as I'll put it, kind of led me into the managerial world. And so I helped a lot with our film crew and, getting shots right for practices and games and helping in that regard. And also trying to be an extra set of eyes for the players on the field. Worked with defensive backs my last 3 years there. So sophomore, junior, and senior year, and that was really nice because I got to kind of be like a player coach hybrid. I got to get some coaching experience with working with the players, but I also got to be one of the guys in essence since I was, right in their age range. I went to school with them. I was in some of their classes, and so I got to kind of have the best of both worlds. And so when I went to college, not only did I pick something that was going to be good for my field, being UWO, they have a great FIA department, but they also had a good football program at the time under head coach Pat Cerrone. And I kind of took a leap of faith in how I went into that program. I met the head coach day one as soon as I stepped onto college, and I'm like, hey, I want to work with you guys. And there were some growing pains, but we kind of got to work well with each other as the season went on. And then after my second year, we had a head coaching change. things didn't really go necessarily as planned, and I kind of felt the longing to get back into the high school realm. And so, um, one of the managers I was working with at UWO, he actually played football at Nina High School, and he was telling me his experiences playing there, different environment than Illinois. Um, and I went to one of their playoff games my second year with UWO in 2022, just on a free day. And from that, I didn't talk to the head coach at that point, but a job opening came up like 2 weeks after that game I went to. And I kind of looked at it as a sign. I'm like, I went to this playoff game. I know somebody. Like, this has got to mean something. So I shot him an email. I said, hey, I'm looking to get into high school coaching. I have this experience with two successful programs. I know one of your players. Would love to give this a shot. And he got back to me, say he was interested in getting extra hands on deck. We actually took the in-person interview before, literally the day of a Packers game I was going to. So I was going through Nina
Wow.
to get to Green. I was going through Nina just to get to Green Bay. So I'm like, this is perfect. Works out great.
You got lucky
Um,
there.
the yeah, the in-person interview went well. I was hired not too long after that, and then I have been working with the team since January of 2023. I just finished up my second season with the program, and it's been an absolute blessing to be a part of. The kids are absolutely great to work with on all levels. They're very respectful. It took a while to get used to them just because of my age, but once
Sure.
I think they saw my knowledge for the game and that I knew I was talking about, they were definitely more receptive. And I think I have a really good bond with a lot of the students and the players there. And I work pretty well with them. I'd like to think they are pretty loose with me, which is nice to know that they can kind of ease up around me, but still respect the authority I have. And we've done some really good things the past 2 years. And we took Nina to round three of the playoffs the past 2 years, which is the first time that's happened since 2004 for the school. And it's the first time that's even happened in my life. So that's been just a blast to be a part of. And I'm just really excited for how we can continue to build the program for years to come to, keep stepping up in the levels that we could go.
That's awesome. Um, so before I get into Jack playing baseball, he never played football, but he played
Well, I
baseball.
actually did. I played football for 2 years.
Oh, there
Oh,
you go.
oh okay. I just want to ask you really quick. I forgot what position do you coach for Nina?
Yeah, so my first year, I coached outside linebackers, and then this past year, I've coached inside linebackers. So they kind of moved me around to where they needed me the best. So I kind of had to learn a little bit on the fly after working with DBs for 5 years straight. But it's worked well. I kind of picked up the stuff rather quickly, and I'd say it's been a great learning experience for me personally. I don't think the kids were held back as a result of that. So it's worked out pretty
Oh,
well.
with your knowledge, I'd be surprised if they were held back in any way. But honestly, when you say that you worked with safeties first, you know that's great because honestly, sometimes safeties turn into linebackers. So that's not
Mm-hmm.
there's not much of a I mean there is a learning curve there, but not as big as you think. So Jack, why don't you go into the sports that you played throughout your younger years, middle school and high school and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I pretty much played everything growing up. Baseball was definitely always my first love from the time I was 5 years old and moving onwards. But I played soccer growing up, football, basketball, baseball, lacrosse, cross country. I pretty much did everything I could get my hands on. I just loved being outdoors and playing and doing athletic things when I was a kid. Uh, as Grant mentioned, I ended up sticking with baseball. I played football my eighth grade year and freshman year of high school. I've got some pretty sick eighth grade huddle highlights out there somewhere in the universe. But I did not play after my freshman year. I was what you would definitely call wiry for my height. I've been 6'3" since eighth grade, but I was 135 pounds my freshman year of high school, soaking wet. So it was not the ideal football build, but I was fortunate enough to play 1 year of Division One baseball at Creighton University. Unfortunately, had a couple injuries that ended my career, but it's always fond memories looking back on it. And I've really enjoyed just continuing to watch and play as many sports as I can. And I love learning more about every sport that I follow.
Yeah, the memories are what matter for sure, for sure. I look back at all 4 years of managing with the guy underneath me, and I mean I constantly think of those memories because the first thing that I look at when I wake up in the morning is my senior year jersey because it's literally on the wall right in front of my bed. So I
Yeah.
always always have those memories just circling through my head, and it's the best. It's the best.
Yeah, no, I'm literally in the same boat because behind me, not only do I have a wall of games, but above it, I believe it's this photo is the senior photo of me and all the senior players from 2021.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So next we're gonna go into how Jordan Love, has kind of had a little bit of a rocky season, according to Peyton. I actually think that it's been pretty all right. I mean, if he hasn't missed those 2 games, I honestly think he would be at like 22 or 2,300 passing yards and maybe low 20s in touchdowns. And as a Bears fan, I have to say that that pains some of us to say because 2 out of the 3 people on here are Bears fans, even though it's horrific to watch right now. But I mean, I understand what you're saying, Peyton, because when you look at Jordan Love has been in the league for 4 or how many years?
So he was drafted in 2020, so this is his second year starting and his fifth year in the league overall.
Okay, so he's been in the league for 5 years. He only has, you know, around 6,600 passing yards, which is a really good number, I will say. But some players who have been in the league as a quarterback, for around this time and have been starters, uh, are close to like 10,000 passing yards. I would say if they're on a good team. So, in my opinion, the only way that Jordan Love can turn around this shaky season is if he throws for 250 yards and 2 touchdowns for the rest of the season. Now, that is doable, but he has to play some hard defenses. He has to play um, Chicago twice. He has to play San Francisco once and Minnesota once. So those are matchups to maybe expect a little less. Maybe not Chicago's just because of the dismantle right now. But San Francisco and Minnesota are definitely uh, matchups to watch. What are your thoughts on that, Peyton? And then I'll ask Jack the same question.
Yeah, so I kind of agree with you in the fact that if Jordan Love had been healthy all of this year, I do think his stats would look better. Because something that always got me about the whole debate I see online about Jordan Love versus Malik Willis is that Malik Willis's games have been against pretty weak opponents whenever
Yeah.
he's had to step in. His first 2 starts were against the Colts and the Titans, and those guys don't really pop off the screen all too much. I feel like
Hmm.
Jordan Love would have had good games against those two. And then Malik Willis had to finish the game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are kind of in a little bit of their own tailspin. So it would be better for Love if he had played all the games. I would agree, but in the games that he has played, it's been a little reminiscent of Brett Favre. Like you gotta take the good with the bad. He has made a bunch of highlight plays this season, no doubt, but he's also made some pretty bad mistakes when you just look at it at the eye test. It's not exactly numbers you want to see out of someone you paid a 55 million per year contract to. But I feel like we just have to keep in mind that it is only his second year starting, and I feel like teams are starting to adjust to his level of play and what he's physically capable of. And it's just going to take time to kind of just clear that hurdle and to get used to it. And typically, we will see a season like this out of a quarterback that has signed a huge contract, or even just athletes in general.
Yeah, the
Sometimes
step
the
down
money
season.
does play a role.
The step down season, I would call it. The minute they get their money, they don't uh, practice as hard, or feel like they have the urge to play as hard. Is what you're
Yeah,
saying?
or just the feeling that they made it, and they kind of get that extra bit of confidence that might not be needed, and that definitely does contribute to the field sometimes with some players.
Yes, I can agree. So, Jack, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be all too worried about any recent performance
Me
struggles from
neither.
Jordan
Me
Love. I
neither.
think he's in part been dealing with a little bit of that nagging knee issue from week one that he suffered against the Eagles. But also at the same time, when you look at how the season played out last year for the Packers, Love got off to a very hot start as far as touchdown percentage for his passes. He was just throwing a ton of touchdowns for how little attempts he had. But then he did go through a little bit of a swoon in the middle of the season before he really picked it back up towards the last 6 or 7 games, extended into the playoffs. Uh, I think it would be unwise not to trust Matt LaFleur to figure out some of the things that are going wrong on offense. And I think part of what Peyton said is true. We've seen it with CJ Stroud this year. In his second year, defenses have begun to adjust to some of the things they do well.
Mhm.
But the Packers obviously have seen enough in him to give him that $55 million. So I have no doubt that with the talent he has and the coaches they have, that they should figure it out sooner rather than later.
I can agree with that. So, before we get into the next topic, we just want to remind everyone to like, comment, and subscribe to the Bear Claw Cast on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. So, the next topic we're going to talk about is how the Bears are living in this constant cycle of getting the quarterback and then firing the head coach the year after they draft him. It seems like we have talked about this topic, me and Jack here, for the past probably 2 or 3 weeks, because we've started to you know get into that little bit of mad cycle of how is Matt Eberflus still have a job and all of that stuff. But in my personal opinion, this is even worse because Caleb Williams is on his second offensive coordinator in his first year, and he will most likely be on his third at the end of the season. It'll be interesting to see how the first game goes with Thomas Brown as play caller. Anything can be better than the past 3 games with Shane Waldron as play caller, though. So, um, Thomas Brown did state that he will be calling plays from the booth and not the sideline, unlike Waldron. I like that because calling from the sideline uh, is you don't see everything, and when you're in the box, you can see everything from a different point of view. And let's also hope that when the Bears need to make adjustments, they don't wait till halftime to make them. It's pretty evident that the end of the season is going to have a Bears head coach search. So, Peyton, why don't you go into some realistic options for the Bears to bring in and replace Eberflus, and me and Jack will react to your options.
Yeah, so did a little bit of research on what the market kind of looks like beforehand when you asked me this, and I came up with a couple different options. They all kind of vary in their own ways. I think first would be the offensive coordinator for the Bills, Joe Brady. If they're able to get him, I think that could be a decent hire because I feel like Josh Allen and Caleb Williams have similar skill sets, and I feel like Josh Allen and the Bills' offense didn't really skip a beat after they lost Dable in the transition to Joe Brady, and well, I did forget about
Ken Dorsey in the middle
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, Ken Dorsey. Ken Dorsey was kind of that bump in the road, but after Ken Dorsey going to Joe
Right.
Brady, I feel like they've been a lot better since then, and that is a potential option for them that I think could work really well. Another one would be the offensive coordinator from the Ravens, Todd Monken, I believe his name is, working with Lamar Jackson. I feel like that Ravens offense is also something that just works well together, especially with running back like Derrick Henry to be a huge like ground and pound presence. I feel like that really goes right into the Bears' ideology just as a team. If they can get a running back similar to Derrick Henry, someone that can, carry the load for close to 15, 20 carries a game, something where they don't really need to put this huge burden onto their up and coming quarterback. I feel like that could benefit them in a lot of ways personally. Um, if they could get Ben Johnson from the Detroit Lions, I feel like that would also be beneficial. I'm not sure the possibilities of that being,
I
he's working for a division rival.
Yeah.
Uh,
So personally, actually, now if you asked me this 3 4 weeks ago, I would be ecstatic that that guy's on your list. But let me say this. With the dysfunction of this Bears organization, I don't see a guy like him. First of all, leaving, um, uh, going to a
Detroit.
division rival, that's hard in itself. And uh, I heard from someone that Ben Johnson said that he will not go to a organization that is dysfunctional, and I'm pretty sure that that is our organization in a nutshell.
Yep.
Um, uh, and I'm sure you're happy to hear me say that. It pains me to say that, but it's me being honest because the Bears have never paid for coaching, and Ben Johnson's gonna want like, if I had to guess, he'd probably want like 5 years, 75, $80 million, maybe. Well, maybe not 80, but somewhere around the 75 mark would be my guess for his, contract. But
Yeah.
the other guys, I do like your options because, because one thing that people don't remember is Kevin Warren wasn't involved in the hiring process for um, uh, Matt Eberflus, and he will be uh, part of the process for this next head coach. And something that he likes is like experience. And I mean, I actually really like Todd Mackin because he's had some good experience. He ran the offense in Georgia, and then he came to um, the Ravens. And honestly, I mean, I don't think he has a problem like molding his playbook to his quarterback. So I mean, because I mean, Georgia is a pass heavy offense, right? Probably, and the
Well, it's a different style of offense for sure than what the Ravens have been running.
Absolutely.
sure, but Jack, why don't you? I mean, can you comment on any of the options that Peyton brought up?
Yeah, I think Todd Monken is definitely the one I want to mention that we haven't really brought up before on the podcast. Like you mentioned, had success at Georgia, won a national championship with Stetson Bennett, and obviously great running backs, but pretty much a drop back passing offense. Stetson Bennett's not utilizing his legs a ton, and then we've seen how much he's been able to adapt to what he has in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson. And I want to say, I'm not 100% sure. I think he was at least on the staff in Tampa Bay when they had Jameis. And obviously, that's another quarterback who, for all Jameis's faults, he did throw for a lot of yards and a lot of touchdowns a lot of times. So I could
I
be wrong on that, but
I always refer to him as the 30 for 30 quarterback. So
yeah.
Oh yeah.
just
He
as a
he was
just
the
as a
offensive
joke.
coordinator with the Buccaneers for a
Was
couple of
he?
years there. Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
that's what I thought. But yeah, I think that would be an option that not a lot of people have brought up so far. That would be a good one to look at. I do know he's, I think, from Wheaton, Illinois, so like very close to the city of Chicago. I read that somewhere this week, so
Yep, you're
I think
right.
that would just be like a random little cool thing for him to come home and potentially become
I
the head
didn't know
coach here.
that.
But we'll obviously have to see.
I didn't know that. So that's a cool little snippet that I didn't know. So next, we're gonna talk about the uh, how the Bears versus Packers rivalry has for some reason produced some lackluster games lately. In the past 5 years, the Packers have won every single Bears matchup. At the beginning of the year, I'm sure all Bears fans were finally thinking that this year could be different. I don't need to say this, but this year is not going to be different because the Bears have a new play caller, and even though his best game did uh, come against the Green Bay Packers last year, it is with a different defensive coordinator. So I don't see the Bears winning this because of uh, organizational dysfunction. Um, it's going to be painful to watch on Sunday, but we will be watching to give you our recap episode after that. So what are your thoughts on that,
Uh
Peyton? And
oh.
and
Uh-oh.
then I'll
There he
go.
is.
You there, Grant?
Yeah, yeah, you're good.
We're good.
You got cut out for a second.
There for a second.
I got cut out. Oh crap.
Yeah,
Um,
you left and then joined back.
um, I don't know why. But what do you? So what are your thoughts on the Bears and Packers? With the Packers winning their last like 10 matchups.
Yeah, I would kind of have to say, trailing back to how you were talking about the cycle of dysfunction that they have, I feel like that definitely plays a part because there is a lack of consistency that goes into that. You
Yeah.
know, you get a new quarterback, you fire the head coach when you should have fired him, the season prior and started just with a
Hmm.
clean slate, and then that stunts the QB's development, and then you got to get another one, and players leave, and it just becomes a mess as a result. There's no consistency, whereas the Packers have shown nothing but consistency. They've had the same head coach since 2019. They've groomed a quarterback underneath what looks to be a Hall of Famer in Aaron Rodgers. They've had pretty consistent talent for the most part. They've retained a lot of core pieces, not only with the players, but with the staff as well in a lot of areas. And I feel that allows everyone to kind of build off of each other as the years go on. Whereas with Chicago, you don't start with a clean slate. And as a result, you don't allow everyone within that organization to kind of build with each other during that process. And it almost feels like you're starting with a new group of guys every single year. And that kind of makes it hard to compete with an organization that kind of has their stuff figured out in essence. And I feel like that's why we've seen such a disparity in the results because the Packers have kind of continued to grow as the years have gone on, whereas the Bears have been kind of stuck in neutral. And I think that's not really a great thing for not only the Bears just in general, but just in the stance of the rivalry because being from the Midwest, that is the game that's marked on everyone's schedule in this region
Yeah.
is Bears versus Packers, and that's what everyone kind of looks forward to. And we all want to see a good game from that rivalry, not only to see our team win, but we also want it to be competitive and engaging and something that's fun to watch. And unfortunately, we haven't really had that in recent years because of what's been going on in Chicago. So I think they just need stability in some kind of regard in order for things to really turn around.
Well, I can tell you one reason why you have stability and the Bears don't, and that's because no one technically owns the Packers, and um, the Bears are owned by probably the cheapest billionaire that I've ever seen, and won't hire competent people. But what are your thoughts on that, Jack?
Yeah, I can't really disagree with much of what Peyton said. The only thing I really feel like adding is despite pretty massive personnel changes on both sides within that 5 year time span we were talking about, Packers switching over quarterbacks from Rodgers to Love, the Bears cycling through a number of quarterbacks, a number of coaches, different defensive schemes. It seems like no matter what, no matter how close they get, and there has been several close games over that 5 years, Maybe not all of them, definitely not all of them, but there has been a couple. That mental bugaboo the Bears just seem to have of they can't get over the hump of beating the Packers for whatever reason. I think a lot of people, at least Bears fans, hope that when Rodgers left for New York, that would change a little bit. And up until this point, it hasn't. There's been a lot of talking coming from Green Bay players and fans this week, which is justified. The Bears have not had the season we've hoped, but you
Yeah,
never know. I mean, anything can happen. It's football. The Bears aren't the worst team in football, so
they're
hey,
not,
who
but
knows?
they're
True.
they're one they're close.
They're
I mean,
close.
just
Hey, I mean
from
the I was going to say the Jags put up a fight against them. I mean,
That's true.
so um so uh before we get into our last topic, we um we would like to remind everyone to comment or like, comment, and subscribe to the Bear Cast on YouTube and Apple Podcast. Um, our final topic will be predictions for the Bears versus Packers game. You know, I I don't want to, predict crazy things. So I will predict that Caleb Williams gets somewhere around maybe 200 passing yards with hopefully a touchdown or two. But I could see this being a more use the run to set up the pass game. So I'll also predict DeAndre Swift has around 60 to 75 yards with 40 receiving yards. I will also predict that the Bears get 3 sacks and 1 interception on Jordan Love. But when it is all said and done, as much as it pains 2 out of 3 of us to say the Packers will most likely come out on top, what are your predictions, Peyton? And then I'll go into Jack for the same question.
Yeah. So I don't disagree with you on a lot of that. I think Bears wise, I think Caleb Williams can go for somewhere around 200 yards, one passing touchdown, maybe a rushing touchdown. I feel like he's probably going to throw at least one pick, but probably not more than two. Uh, in terms of rushing, I think, like you said, the Bears' best option is to use the ground game to set up the run, especially since the Packers lost Preston Smith in the trade to the Steelers. So I feel like that's a big presence that they lose defensively, not only on the field, but as a voice off the field with that unit. And that could potentially play a factor in the game on Sunday. In terms of Packers offense, I feel like Jordan Love can go for 240, 250, 1 to 2 touchdowns, but no more than two. And he's probably going to throw at least one pick because the Bears defense always finds a way to make plays regardless of who they face for the most part. And that can keep them within this game, I feel.
I agree with you that they make plays, but they don't seem to make plays when it matters. I'll tell you that. Uh, Jack, why don't you go into your predictions?
yeah, so I think it's really hard for me to put any numbers on stats for this game. I think what we're going to see just usage wise is a lot of Thomas Brown trying to get the ball into DJ Moore and Cole Kmet's hands.
I
He
hope
talked a
so.
lot about this week in his press conference about getting the ball into our playmakers' hands. And it's something I've seen a lot reiterated by Bears media and just Bears fans in general. We've been utilizing 32-year-old Keenan Allen as our man beater this year and trying to have him set up for a lot of plays where he can run after the catch when that should be a spot where we have DJ Moore or Romo Dunze trying to get the ball. So I think I don't expect the Bears offense to be vastly better. And I do think the Packers will win this game just because I think Josh Jacobs is going to be able to run on this Bears defense. And I don't think Jalen Johnson will shadow Jaden Reed. And we've seen the Bears be susceptible to big plays, both on the ground and through the air. So I expect Jaden Reed and Jordan Love to do what they do seemingly every other week and hook up on a deep passing play that might break this game open. But I'm hoping to at least just see the Bears come in with a better game plan. And even if it's not executed to perfection, just like please try and make something happen. Caleb, if you throw a pick, like so be
So
it.
what?
Like, go
So
try and make a play. Like, it's gonna happen. You're a rookie. The all-time leading interception leader as a quarterback for rookies is a top 5 quarterback of all time in Peyton Manning. And obviously, not everyone is Peyton Manning, but you are the number one overall pick. Go at least try and make these plays and see what you can and cannot do, because we're not winning the Super Bowl this year. So go try and see
see what
how
you have.
you were going to be able to be most effective in the league. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So I think one thing that we didn't do that I think all three of us should do right now is I think we should give a score prediction. So I'll go first. I'll say I'll I'll say the Packers win this 24-14. I hope that we can score 14. I I mean the thing that I'm looking for is to honestly score a touchdown on the first drive, because that was something that Waldron couldn't do for the last 4 or 5 games, I feel like.
We haven't scored in the first quarter all year.
Yeah, that's true.
We haven't scored a point. We haven't scored a point.
Yeah, it's just it's terrible. Um, Peyton, what would your score prediction be?
Uh, well, kind of going off of what Jack said, I feel like something underrated with the Packers is their run game, and I feel like that leads to a lot of their success. So I think as long as Jordan Love in the pass game can do what they need to do and not force mistakes, the Packers have a really good chance to win. The Bears' real key to victory would be uh, cherish the football, don't turn it over, and then their run defense has to be really stout. I say their best chances to try and make Jordan Love in that pass game beat them. But me personally, hard to predict score specifically. I always try to go for point differential because I feel like that's easier to kind of game plan for. But I kind of see the Packers winning by 10 to 13 points, somewhere in that range. But I kind of agree with you, Grant, that I could see this being like 24-14, 27-14 in favor of the Packers, something around there.
Sure, Jack. What would your score prediction be?
So I'm going to totally contradict what I just said a couple seconds ago, and I'm going to predict a Bears 31-28 win. I'll even go into how I see this one playing out. Bears
Okay.
opening drive touchdown, followed by a some type of defensive touchdown, whether that be a pick six or a fumble recovery touchdown. Bears get up early. They're actually going to be up 31-10 and allow the Packers to get all the way back to 31-28 and still manage to win it. So go Bears.
You know what? I like the hot take. I mean, it's something that I don't see happening, but hot takes happen. So, I think that's going to be our episode for this for the preview. Me and Jack will be back on Tuesday to give you our uh reaction to this how this game played out on Sunday. And you know what? I'm gonna remember the hot take that Jack had, and depending on how the score goes, I definitely am gonna have a lot of questions for you if depending on
Hey,
how that goes.
if I've
Gotta
learned
have
one
hope.
thing from watching ESPN my whole life is that no one remembers your bad hot takes; they remember the good ones. So throw as many hot takes as you can out into the wind and see what sticks.
That's a good point. What were you gonna say, Peyton?
I'd say the one bad hot take I remember from ESPN is "Give me a Godala," but I'm kind of with Jack in the sense of like you always gotta have hope in one way or another. So
We're Bears
I
fans.
hope
All
that
we have is hope.
there you go.
So, but I'd like to remind everyone one final time to remember to subscribe to the Bear Claw Cast on YouTube and Apple Podcasts, and we will see you all on Tuesday. And have a great weekend, everybody.
See you guys.
That's it.